the law of attraction, the basis starts with an intention. So what is it that I want to call into my life, and how can I manifest that? So first you have to start with, just having an idea of what it is you want, and then you set that as your intention, and then it kind of guides you along the process of bringing in what you want.
Okay, welcome to another episode of True Spirituality. My name is Mike Sygula, and I'm the founder of truthfury.com. And I'm here with Julia Nguyen from the dreamlifefoundation.com. And today we're gonna talk about life purpose and a bunch of other interesting topics: intention, fulfillment, and let's start with, what's your definition of, how would you explain the meaning of life? It's a big question.
I think this question is, the ultimate question for all human beings in general. So it's, it's something I actually think about a lot. I don't know that I've had it figured out yet exactly, but I think obviously the point of life is, based on love and human connection. So we're all here for a reason, and we're all here to support each other, help each other grow, and basically improve the planet in one way or another.
I would say, meaning of life and life purpose, I would say they are quite different. There's a similarity, but my view and understanding of the meaning of life is when you look at the bigger picture we discuss, everything is created by collective consciousness. So on a very, very deep level, we are just this individual unit of collective mind that's going through all these experiences in lifetimes to evolve and experience and create, because one of the main characteristics of consciousness is imagination, and that's also the creative force. So I would say the real meaning of life is just to express your individual creativity in any way, shape or form you want. So is actually what you want to make out of it. What's your meaning of life is, what do you want to do? Any choice, anything you want to do, that's your meaning, because that's the ultimate purpose, to just express your creativity and see what you're capable of creating and manifesting and doing, and then keep evolving. So if you want to be evolving into more complex states, and I'm talking about the soul evolution, and keep reaching higher levels until you get to the enlightenment, that could be also understood as a meaning of life, or the deeper purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So you try to really keep evolving, as fast as possible, to reach greater, higher levels of consciousness and soul evolution.
Yeah, and I know we talked about this before. You basically kind of explained to me that, the meaning of life and God is basically, he is experiencing himself through individual parts, right? So can you elaborate on that further?
Yeah, again, this concept of God is obviously people have wrong meanings, wrong connotations with the word God. We're not talking about the biblical God or some father figure or anything like that. We're talking about ultimate intelligence, collective consciousness, the field of consciousness, if you would want to understand scientifically.
Mm-hmm.
That is creating reality, like this universe, in the same way, because we are just smaller versions of the whole thing. We create our own, smaller versions. Like we can create, I don't know, the universe of technology. We can create things in our head, like, imagine things. We can have dreams. So we still do similar stuff, but we're kind of created in an image of a unit that still has the same potential. It's just very, limited, maybe not limited, but it's just doing it on a small scale.
Yeah, so you're mentioning that basically the meaning of life is for us to express ourselves through our own unique creative expression, and that kind of has to do with our perception of the world and our perception of reality as well. So basically every individual has their own experience based on, the way they look at the world.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely this whole thing of perception, and that's another subject. If you think about, like, something happens to you, and you're gonna describe it differently if the same thing happens to me, or you might internalize it differently. I might internalize it differently. Like this, you might go through a stressful situation, and someone is gonna be extremely stressed. Other person is gonna think about it as an experience or something like that. So everything we kind of see and do is in a way subjective to some extent. Even like our senses are just subjective in a way, because if you look at other animals can see more colors, or even there are some human beings that can see other colors, some kind of like maybe electromagnetic energy or something like that. There are some animals that can sense things differently to us. So in a way, like, we have like a subjective way of experiencing things, and the same has to do with our senses. The way we perceive reality is subjective. It doesn't mean that this is the objective reality. It's just the way our senses are decoding this reality, So it also is interesting if you look at like all the religions throughout the history. If you live in a specific period and you have like the language and experiences and knowledge about the world based on that period and your surroundings and everything, like if you go through some spiritual experiences or religious experiences, you're gonna interpret it in your own way based on what you know, what you understand, and you're kind of this filter. You have this filter of subjective experience. So let's say you might have an experience with a spirit or your higher self, but you're gonna think you're the chosen one and the God spoke to you and all this kind of stuff, and then you start a religion out of that, and people keep following that, and but it might be just a normal kind of experience that thousands and thousands of people went throughout the history in their own unique ways, and they all kind of interpret it slightly differently because of that's why we have all these different religions. Like very often they talk about the same things, but or similar experiences, but just use different language, and it's all based around their culture and their personal experience, and you suddenly come out with all these different versions of like similar things.
Mm-hmm. So we went a little off topic here, but we can go back to life purpose and the meaning of life.
Well, let's maybe talk about like the life purpose based on your soul plan, because we discussed like in the previous episodes we talked about that everyone has like this you come, incarnate, and you have this soul plan, which is like the things you want to accomplish, who you want to become, maybe some people you're going to meet. And that's, I think it's very tied to the life purpose. What's your view about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we're all here for a reason, and depending on what your interests are and what you're kind of learning about yourself, what your strengths are, that kind of guides you to finding your life purpose. But not only that, it's like what you're really passionate about. And I know we've talked about this before, which is basically, we all kind of are actually just remembering like what we're already good at and what we're uniquely here for. So I think that ties in with our life purpose, like what we really came here to do. And I know for a lot of like spiritual workers or whatever, it's to help elevate the planet and raise the consciousness to a higher level. So I think for everyone to find meaning in life, they definitely have to figure out what their purpose is, and that's kind of where it starts, because when you know what your life purpose is, you can start to live with more meaning. You can become more fulfilled and happy in all areas of your life.
Yeah, exactly. If you think about like, most people just have a job. Maybe it comes from their parents or whatever they think it's gonna bring more money, or some kind of choices they made that might not necessarily been the right ones. And if you think about it, like you spend most of your life working and sleeping, and then there is a very little time for leisure or anything else. So you really want to make sure that you're living your true life, and you have a job or a career, whatever it is that you're doing full time, to that is actually linked to your passion and to your gifts. So I think this is really all has to do with a life purpose. You have some kind of unique ability that you're most likely born with. You can develop it with everything. You're not straight away a master at something. You might have a talent, but you still need to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone has a different gift. It's like, for someone like you, it might be maybe just working with people, helping them to improve in many different areas, fight depression or improve their lives in some ways. This is like, something that you might be good at, or you discovered. For someone else, it's going to be, I don't know, music or mathematics or technology or business. There are so many different things that require like different personalities, and everyone has something. And I think it's so important to actually find that thing that you're good at, that is like, you're happy doing, and then try to turn it into some career. And especially today with the internet, like there are so many options. You can teach people online about almost anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most important thing with having a life purpose as well is, like you said earlier, it's expressing your own individuality. So like you said, when we kind of grow up, we kind of learn a lot of things from like our family and society about who we should be, instead of like learning about ourselves and what we really like and what we're passionate about. So we might be stuck in a job that we think is right for us, but I find that a lot of people actually are just working these jobs to get by.
Yeah.
And so when you're trying to find your life purpose, you have to like reconnect with your passion, but also like learn to express yourself as you, and I think that's the most important thing, because sometimes we all get lost in like wanting to be someone else. Like we see someone else that's really successful and we're like, oh, I'm going to model after them. And then you kind of forget or get lost again about who you are and what you really want and how you want to express yourself in this life.
Yeah. that's a very good point. Like, you know, that story comes to my mind is the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he was, you know, he came as a foreigner speaking German or, you know, from Austria. So his accent was really heavy. He looked like a monster, you know, he was a world champion bodybuilder. So actually he mentioned many times when he wanted to be an actor, like everyone was laughing at him, like a lot of executives or people in Hollywood would just laugh straight away in his face, like, look at you, you know, you look like a monster, your accent is ridiculous, all these kind of things they were telling him. And, you know, now when you look at it, like when you look at his career, like these things that a lot of people thought gonna be his weaknesses actually became his strengths, because like he was playing all these roles of like big tough guys, or, you know, which these aspects that they were laughing at, like maybe the accent, or, you know, how big he is, actually were helping out with his roles, you know, they added to that character. So he built like this completely new role, new type of actor, you know, so he created his own kind of version, you know, and people later on, once you prove it, suddenly everyone's like looking at it differently. So it's often like, you know, working, if you feel, I think just working on like what you feel like it's important. There's a lot of these stories of people who wanted to be someone else, you know, like Joe Dispenza, for example. You know, he is a neuroscientist, but he's also looking into spiritual aspects. So he was very concerned with his career in the neuroscience world of these conventional mainstream scientists. How are they going to look at him if he's going to start introducing these aspects of spirituality, chakras, other things? And he decided that, you know, he won't try to conform to their dogmas, to their kind of limited way of looking at this stuff, because he believes in his research and his experience is showing him that actually a lot of other things are true. So he decided to be a rebel and, you know, not fit into that mainstream closed scientific community where they look at him sometimes like a pseudoscience guy, whatever, because he believed that he wants to share his truth, that, you know, and then turns out that he is getting a lot of people who resonate with what he's teaching from other sides, and still developed an incredible career out of that, because he was living his true self, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's, you know, expressing like who you really are without, you know, losing your sense of self when you're working with your life purpose. And like you said, you know, he might have, you know, been afraid to like show up as a spiritual person when he was in the scientific community. But like, if that's his truth, that's what he has to do. Otherwise, he will be misaligned with like his mission here or whatever. So I think it's important for everyone to realize, like, you know, there's always someone waiting to listen to what you have to say or learn what you have to teach. So, you know, like if you're stuck behind like a life purpose and how you want to express yourself, like remember there's always someone who will follow you, who can learn from you. And I think Joe Dispenza is a great example of that. You know, there's always people that will resonate with you. So the biggest thing is to just express yourself through your individuality.
Yeah, I mean, I think also finding your life purpose might be not an easy thing, you know? It can take maybe years even, you know? I think you should just for some people it's just going to be straight away, you know? They're going to be born in some circumstances that is just going to push them, propel them towards their life purpose. But for other people like me, For example, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for a long time. So I'll try different things, and I think this is an important thing for everyone, that you should just, try things out to see if you like them or not. Sometimes, if you want to do something, do some research maybe before you're going to start spending like months or years of learning that, because you might later on not like it. So I'm always giving like these examples. So let's say whatever you want to be, a barber or hairdresser, for example, right? Instead of like doing courses, spending like a year or whatever to learn that, maybe go to your barber or hairdresser and just start talking to them, or take them out for lunch and ask them, what do you like about it, what you don't like about your job, all these kind of things. Talk to these people, try things out yourself, and keep doing that and keep trying and keep that in mind. And at some point things are going to start becoming more clear. And sometimes you also need to develop a skill over a long period of time before you can turn it into your life purpose. So sometimes it's your hobby or something you do part-time. And after a while, like, it becomes the thing. Like in my case, I was fascinated with like researching subjects like these ones we talked about for a very long time before I even started websites. So it kind of started, making some sense after a couple of years of researching. I felt like, I already have a lot of knowledge. I want to start working around it somehow, sharing the information, researching more, so I can turn my passion into something I can, live from as well.
Yeah, I think, when you're trying to find a life purpose, like first you have to kind of evaluate what your values are in life. And I think that's like a really good first step, but also like you said, you kind of have to do like a trial and error and just experiment with a lot of different things to see what it is that you really like. But I think it also really helps to sit down and, kind of just look at your skills, look at what you're passionate about, and then look at how you want to add value to the world. Because at the end of the day, that's like what it really comes down to, like we're all here, like I mentioned earlier, like to connect with each other and to help each other grow. And when you're trying to find your life purpose, there has to be an aspect of, wanting to help others. And I think that that's something that's very common among, a lot of clients that I work with when they're confused about what they want to do. It's like they're missing the piece of like, okay, what do I want to do for myself that will make me happy, but will also help other people become better and happy as well. There's a lot of great exercises that you can do. Like Jack Canfield has a really great life purpose exercise that you can find online, and we can link that below. But like for me, when I found my life purpose, like I started working as a nurse, which was something I wanted to do for a long time. And I did really enjoy it because I loved the aspect of taking care of people, but I wasn't able to work with patients one-on-one like I get to now, which is, that was a game changer for me. Like that was like the defining moment when I, decided that my purpose is to help others, overcome like limiting beliefs and stuff, but on a one-to-one scale. And yeah, so things have changed a lot since I defined it. So I think it's important for everyone to figure it out and then just go after it like never before.
Okay, let's jump into another topic. Intention. What's your view on intention?
I think with intentions, it's basically this concept of setting yourself up for success or whatever you want. Like when we talked about the law of attraction, the basis starts with an intention. So what is it that I want to call into my life, and how can I manifest that? So first you have to start with, just having an idea of what it is you want, and then you set that as your intention. and then it kind of guides you along the process of bringing in what you want.
Yeah, I think intention is really important in many different ways. So, for example, if you go for some kind of psychedelic or shamanic ceremonies, like with psychedelics or ayahuasca or anything, it's always about setting intention, right? Any kind of work with some coaches, psychics, or anything like that, it's a lot to do with intention. Like, what is your goal? What is that you want to bring from this experience? Because it kind of sets your mind in a way. That's one thing. And I think, the way reality works, we kind of attract and bring things and manifest situations and people. And we need to have some intentions as well. So it's like, whatever you focus on, you start bringing. And one thing that comes to my mind when I think about intentions, I believe that when you look at people who, let's say, are into spirituality, any kind of metaphysics, spirituality, esotericism, mysticism, these kind of topics we talk about, and then you look at scientific community, for example, science and spirituality, they're kind of, not very compatible, a lot of people believe. So scientists very often are dismissive of anything like we discuss, any kind of religious, spiritual, paranormal, anything like that. And they're very materialistic in the way they look at things. And I think if you think about the intention here, like if you focus and you have some kind of goals and intentions, like we talk about how reality is created by consciousness and we attract things. So if your mindset is like, I don't believe in any spiritual stuff, it's mumbo jumbo, whatever, I'm like, science is the truth and all this kind of stuff. Like this is your intention. Like your intention is the things you're going to be bringing in your life, like the research you're going to be attracting, or people you're going to hang out with, whatever it's going to be. You're going to live in your own bubble because of your intention, and you're going to be manifesting things that reaffirm your belief. So let's say, like, I don't know, you decide like, okay, let me look at astrology. If this is like, maybe there is something to it. I don't believe in it. It's considered a pseudoscience, but let's do some research. And then like, you spend a little bit of time, like you look at an astrologer or whatever, and it turns out that they are wrong about something. That you, like, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson, he was talking about how he was on a show with an astrologer, and she said something about like some eclipse during JFK's assassination, and then because he understands eclipses when they are happening, he calculated that she was wrong, and based on that, he thinks, you see, she's like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's making things up and mixing things up. So it doesn't mean, that astrology in this case is bollocks and all these astrologers, all these people are delusionals and they completely mixing things up. It means that, when he tried to look into it, like he just attracted things that reaffirmed his belief that, for him, astrology is a pseudoscience. So the things he brings keep reaffirming that, the situations and all this kind of stuff, because that's his intention. Maybe if he would have a different approach, like his intention would be, I want to know the truth, right? Really want to know the truth. And he would really start in genuinely like believing that maybe there's something, I want to know if this is true, not just having this skeptical point of view. Then he would start attracting different astrologers, different pieces of information, and he would start seeing it from a different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think like every thought we have is basically an intention, whether or not we're aware of it. So we kind of have to just be mindful of what we're thinking and what we're putting out there. Because, like you said, you're attracting, whatever you set your intentions to. So, like, for example, relating back to the life purpose, like when you have a life purpose, you're setting an intention for the rest of your life. And intentions don't have to be on like a big scale like that. It could be something small, like just starting your day off with intentions of having a good day, expressing gratitude, and things like that. Like there's different ways of using intentions where it could help you, create the reality that you want. But it can also work like the opposite, like you could have negative thoughts all the time, which are essentially negative intentions, and then you'll also be attracting that into your life as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good point of like using setting intentions, like these micro intentions every day, like with how you start the day, with things you wanna do, like say, like something bigger, something smaller, meeting someone, whatever it is. Like always set these intentions as well, because it's really like what you're gonna be bringing.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to intention, it's also like you have to be careful what you wish for as well, because there's always that aspect of like manifesting things into your reality. So you kind of have to just, be mindful of what you're putting out there, because it will come back to you and maybe in a surprise to where it's not what you really wanted. So when you're setting intentions, you do have to be a bit specific with what you want. But I also think intentions are good because it helps you escape from kind of like this zombie mode that we can all like get into when we're living our daily lives, like even just something as eating food can be like a trap of, distracting us from doing what we really want to do. Because it's like we're just thinking about eating and doing all of these like repetitive habits, and we're not actually putting intentions before what we do. So we're not thinking about what we're doing, we're just doing it out of habit.
True. Thanks for checking out True Spirituality episode 4. In episode 5, we will discuss different spiritual practices, psychedelics, concepts like chakras, chi, prana, etc. Till next time.